So I'm going to switch over to RubyMine. Can you see that? Yes, you can. So I'm going to make a new RSpec test template. Let's see if this works. I don't know if it'll work. I'm going to just use a set because I kind of know how to do that already. So I'm making a new test. Stop it. No, don't add to get. The behavior name is it is initialized, I think. I don't know what this, I've never seen this template before. It should be empty, right? Do you want to add the following file to Git? No, we'll do it later. So can we read this? Yes. So this is a great example of a horrible test, but this will prove that our framework works. Can you read that? Do I need to? I think I'll increase the font just a little. Okay. So now let's see if this will work. Oh, I hope it works. This is gonna work. No, that's not it. Run. There we go. Run. Set spec. Okay, that's not working. Oh, it is. There we go. Okay, it's good. It's working. All right. Here, let me make this a little bigger. You can still see it? Okay. So what we've got here is a properly failing test. This is just testing our framework, right? So this IDE runs all the tests in a nice little viewer here. Normally, you're going to be in the command line, and it's going to look like this instead. Oops, sorry. I'm going to unalias RSpec and try that again, right? So this isn't green for some reason. I think I have to add -- color, maybe. Yeah, okay, good. So this is the exact same thing running in here, but this is just a prettier way of showing it. So I'm going to go back here. What we want to do is describe a set. And actually, so this is just proving our framework works. Let's make a test list. And I'll make it in a new file. Test list.txt. And what does a set do? So I know, but I'd like you to tell me some of the things that a set does. Do you all know what a set is? No? Do you know?
Some kind of list?
It's some kind of list. Yes, it's actually a collection. It's one of the fundamental building blocks of computer science, like a stack and a graph and a list. A set is a collection where the contents are unique and they're unsorted, right? And unindexed. So that's a set. A list, just in comparison, a list, otherwise known as an array, is also a collection, but the elements are non-unique. In other words, you can have multiple copies of the same thing in the single array, and they are sorted and they are indexed. So you can find the third item in an array. You can't find the third item in a set. The only thing you can do in a set is you can add to it, you can remove from it, and you can ask whether something is contained in it. That's pretty much it.
It's not that useful.
It's very useful.
Yeah.
Actually, this is one of those paradoxes of computer programming, is that it's freedom with constraint. From constraint comes freedom. If all you have is a stack where all you can do is push and pop, then it frees your algorithm up. It allows you to think of elegant algorithms, sometimes more elegant than the ones if you had a full array where you could put things at the beginning and the end and grab things from the middle. That might make it too complicated. But sometimes if all you have is the ability to add something, and then if you add it again, you don't get a copy, that could be good. That can actually solve real problems. right? Like we generated a preview for an image, and then we generated the same preview for the image, and we added it. It's not going to have 2 copies, it's just going to have 1, right? It's like, it'll correct errors that come up. So, it's very useful and whatever. So, this is going to be my test list for now, unless you guys can think of something else that this set should do. You can't, can you? Anyone else? Aha, that's great. I love that. Is it empty or not? I love that method. That's a great method. In fact, I'm going to start off with that, as you could probably figure out. So I'm going to describe my set, and I'm going to see, oh, it should be empty. What does that mean? It means that if I make a new set, it should be empty. This is the power and silliness of RSpec, is that you can read your tests as if they were English. My set.new, okay, that's code. But .should be empty, that's RSpec. So now let's run the tests. And it says, uh-oh, we have an error, uninitialized constant, my set. So now we have to actually write the code. So let's write the code.
Can I ask a stupid question? Right?
Always.
How does the computer know that this test is pointing to that file? What's the relationship between them? Do they have the same name or?
At this point, it's not pointing to any other file.
Yeah.
If that's what you're, yeah. To the code.
Yeah,
At this point here, and I will close this because we won't need that anymore. At this point, this is just running in a vacuum.
yeah.
It's just nowhere. So no, the way that we attach this code to that code is with whatever the language allows, which is this. And that we might need to mess with this. I'm going to see in a second just how good it is. It's probably not going to work, but this code here, if this file on the right here actually gets loaded, then that'll fix this specific problem down here. So let's see if that fixes it. Cannot load such file my set. So that's what I was saying, we need to do more. Ruby is a little prickly about the current directory. So what we have to do is use a little Rubyism. Here equals file.expand path, file.dir name, under file. This is just a little incantation you have to memorize. I'm sorry, it's just part of Ruby. And then that basically, the expand path is optional, but it's just a good idea. But basically, I'll take it out just for demonstration purposes. That is the actual current file that we are in right now, that __ file. It's set by the Ruby parser. File.dir name finds just the path that that's in, and this is setting that into a variable. And then I'm going to stick that variable here, and let's see if that works better. It still says uninitialized constant my set name error.
Why is it called
That's no.
set and not thus my set?
Ah, that's why. Thank you. That's it.
Why is it my set with an underscore?
There we go. The underscore thing is just a Ruby naming convention.
Okay.
Ruby, for variable names and file names, uses underscores. That's just what it is. And for constants, it uses capitalized camel case.
Yeah.
All right, so look, check it out. Undefined method empty. We're getting a properly failing test now. Almost properly. Because now I want to say, I want to define empty, and I'm going to run the test again. And it should still fail. Expected it to return true and got nil. Right? And this is totally normal, by the way. I'm not actually being pedantic here. A lot of the time you will just write one line of code, watch it fail, write one more line of code, watch it fail again for a different reason, write one more test line again. I mean, just, goes really quickly, especially if you're running the tests constantly using something like guard or spork or rerun. So now finally, what are we going to do? We're going to fake it till we make it. We're going to return true. And now we are green. Yay! And now everybody give a high five. Abby, high five. Yay! Good job. Wait, we need to Okay, never mind. I can't do it.
Don't
Okay.
do that.
Good girl. Okay. I totally want Abby to be on camera right now. Okay, Abby, you ready? Okay, Abby, high five. Yay, we went to green. Okay, I hope that worked. Okay. So, I like this, but I think I can make it better, at least in the test land. RSpec has this cool new feature called subject. And it makes your code look like this.
I didn't get that at all.
Right. So what we're doing here is this thing here is a precondition. So instead of initializing the object inside of the test, we're initializing it outside, but it happens just before the test gets run.
Okay.
And we're calling it subject. And that means that every time we say the word subject down here, we're talking about this. So this is isolating. It makes the test easier to read because there's now just 3 words in it, basically. Subject, should, and be empty. Is be empty one word or 2? I don't know. So I don't have to think too hard about my set.new, blah, 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 blah. What does that mean? Oh, right, this test is asserting this, that the thing should be empty.
Yeah, get it.
All right? So now I'm going to do another one. What do you think the next test should be?
Contains anything.
Contains anything. I like that. So now I'm going to say subject.add a dog. And so what's the assertion? What's the post condition?
Plus, it should contain dog.
It should contain dog.
And
Actually, I'm
then, it should contain should dog.
should dog. Should dog. Good dog. Yeah, let's back up. It's perfectly fine to want to write the contains method, but we're already writing the add method. So why don't we just stick to one method at a time? And now we want to say should not be empty. Okay? So we're saying that a set that contains anything is not empty, right? So again, notice what I'm doing. I'm refactoring the test on the fly, making it better, making it more self-documenting. And so now I'm going to run it, and it's going to say no method add, right? Yep, undefined method add. So now I go back to the set, and I'm just going to say def add and do nothing. And now it should say, oh, wrong number of arguments. Oh, right, I want to add a thing. Let's run the tests again. Red, 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 red. Expected empty to return false got true. Okay, so I'm going to fake it till I make it. I'm going to make it return false. Oh, it turns out, here, I'm going to expand all these if I can figure out how to do it. There. Turns out that makes the second test pass, but it breaks the first test. Yay, test-driven development, right? This is what it's for. It's very common for you to make a new test pass and simultaneously make an old test break. So now we get to the proof of what I was saying, fake it till you make it only lasts so long. We now need to actually solve a problem here with code. So the problem is going to be solved with what? Any guesses? It's an object. That's a hint. What do objects contain? Anyone? Abby, what do objects contain? That's right, other objects. Good girl. Good girl. Objects contain ham. Okay, so instance variable. That's where I'm going, right? So here I'm going to say, if I'm adding a thing, I'm going to make an instance variable contents equals thing. And then here I'm just going to return contents, except I want to invert the contents. All right, that should make these both pass. All right, now we're still not a set,
Yeah.
We're still going to have to change this so that the contents is actually an array or something.
What's that not notation? I've never seen that.
It's just like bang.
Mm-hmm.
It's a better bang in Ruby. It's for some subtle reasons. You should usually use not instead of bang, and I can explain why later. I mean, but you need to know about it in Ruby. It binds less tightly than bang, which means that if you have a big long Boolean expression, there are some subtle errors that creep in if you're using bang, but there are fewer subtle errors. That, you know, like it's basically not lets you use fewer parentheses.
Okay.
Right, but this would have worked just as well. All right, so now this is kind of silly, but let's contains something after it's been added, right? I'm just going to add one or two more tests just to get this to a slightly more real state. So here I want to add the dog. Subject.contains dog should be true. This is RSpec weirdness again. Right? RSpec is kind of weird because until you really know it, you don't know where the parenthesis, dot, space, and underscore go. So it's kind of failing in its mission to like be easier for people who don't know how to code.
Yeah, why don't you just use dots all the way through?
Because you just can't. That's just a design feature.
Yeah.
It's like how it was designed. Sometimes you need a dot, sometimes you need a space, sometimes you need an underscore, sometimes you need parentheses, and sometimes you don't. So, I mean, let me tell you the parenthesis thing. Are you ready?
Yep.
If this had no parenthesis,
Yep.
then this is how that would be
Got it.
parsed, right? And that just wouldn't work. So you need to put the parentheses around dog this time.
So I get this, but let's step through it step by step and abstract it. So subject is the thing you're doing something to.
Which is a new set.
Yeah, and then the contains is the type of test we're running. Where does contains come from? Is that's
At this point, it doesn't. At this point, it's going to say undefined method contains.
Okay, great. And then dog is what you're feeding into contains.
Yes, we are feeding the dog, but not in the way you think.
Okay. And then dot should is what? Is it always dot should, or there are different things for dot should?
In RSpec, it's almost always dot should.
Okay. And
That-
then be true is the result we want from everything we just talked about.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, be true is the result we want. That's a great way of thinking about it. Yeah, should means I am about to say that something that should be true about the universe, and then be true is what it is that I want to be true.
And I guess there's all sorts of be trues, be falses. I don't know how many are there.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Those are called matchers in RSpec, and they're just called assertions in other frameworks. So there's approximately 8 gazillion matchers. Should include, should be true, should be anything that the object is, right? Should
Should be
you can actually say even should greater than,
Yeah.
which means should be greater than, but you're using the symbol. Okay, doggy, what? Sit. Sit. Down. Good girl. Okay, speaking of the dopaminergic reinforcement system, dogs are a great way to learn how to test. Training a dog, it's all about test-driven development. You make a test, which is dog should be sitting, right? And as soon as the butt hits the ground, you feed her the green. Okay, so I'm not going to belabor this, but the next thing to do is to add a contains method, and then run, and then, oh look, this isn't working, wrong number of arguments, great. Contains thing, right? What is that? Expected true value got nil. Okay, so now I'm just going to say true because I'm faking it. So this is kind of weird. I didn't actually make it work, but it's passing, and that's because my test is inadequate. My test is asking if something is contained after it's been added, but I need another test that says something is not contained if it has not been added. So let's do that. Right, after it hasn't been added. All right, so now I should have either way, one of them is going to fail. There we go. So now, because this is a set that, as it is spec'd out right now, this set can only contain 0 or 1 items. So I can actually solve this pretty easily at contents equals thing. Right? Make sense?
Yeah. Where did we say what a set was again?
Right here.
No, but I mean in the code. Have we defined it? As a
Right here.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So, do we want to stay in the code? Any more questions about this? I mean, I'm going to stop now. The right thing to do when you're writing a set is to have obviously something that contains more than one thing. So we're going to have to use an array or a hash or something else that's built into Ruby, one of the collections classes, right? So we could move on to do that. Right now, I'm going to just say abort. But I also want to let you know, like one common criticism that comes up at this point is like, well, look at all this code here. This is basically all wasted code, right? The criticism is that all this stuff in here, I'm going to have to rewrite completely once it needs to handle more than one item, right? Because this method, it's not going to be whether the contents equals the thing. I'm going to have to go through the contents and compare every one to the target and all this. So this code is going to be gone. This is also going to be gone because contents is a collection. So if I just set the thing to the thing, that would be a huge bug, right? And then this is also going to be gone. And my answer to that is that's totally fine because the goal of test-driven development is to write the tests. And look at this great set of tests that we have for a very simple object, but once we make it more complicated and do things like enforce uniqueness and add iterators and add all these other things, we know that this stuff is still going to be true about it. It's going to continue being right, even if we make the more advanced thing, which is probably more fun. It's more fun to write advanced algorithms for containment or whatever. Okay? So some of you are nodding, some of you are frowning. I don't know if that means you believe me or if you're just tired. So, any questions?
Nothing about
Yes.
the Ruby syntax.
Yes.
The question mark is just for return type.
Yeah, a question mark in Ruby, if a method ends with a question mark, that means that it returns true or false.
Okay.
And it turns out that's not actually guaranteed. It's just a convention.
Okay.
But it's a very strongly held convention. Most of the time, if you ever have a question mark method that doesn't return true or false, then you're a bad programmer, right? Like you're not doing things in the Ruby way. All right, so let's just go back. We'll do part 2 later, I guess, because this has been, I don't know, half an hour or so. So let's just pause for now.
Okay.